Hi everyone, I'm Chris MJ and you are watching Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah, also known as PBD here on Didik TV KPM. Now this is where we'll be focusing on in-classroom assessments together with a teacher. So, who is our teacher for today's episode? Let's take a look. That's right, for today's episode, I have Miss Ima here with me. Hi, Miss Ima.
Hi, Grace. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. And how are you, Miss?
Not too bad. Thank you very much.
Not too bad.
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks so much for being here with us once again. Now, today, we will be focusing on Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah for Bahasa Inggeris. Now, before we also proceed further, I also want to welcome Miss Amira as our sign language interpreter for today's episode. Hi, Miss Amira. Thank you so much for being here. Alright, Miss Ima, what will we be discussing on today?
Okay, Chris, for today, we will be looking at a lesson specifically. And I'm going to try and help teachers out there to think of how they are going to award the TP for their pupils in the lessons that they teach. Because PBD is an ongoing process.
Wow. Okay, alright. So, shall we begin?
Yes, please. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Alright, everybody. So, I'm not going to go into specific detail as to how the process is going to go on because there has already been a program, a very lengthy program on what is PBD all about.
Right.
My focus in this particular episode is on how to look at materials and how to assess our pupils and award them the TP that they deserve. And my focus is on menengah atas.
Okay,
and the particular lesson that we are going to look at is a Form 4 lesson. Okay, as what you can see on the slide is very obvious, classroom assessment in the English language, PBD. We use PBD because that's the term that is used for all subjects. It doesn't matter what subject it is, English, Malay, or any other foreign languages, it is known as PBD.
Got it.
Alright, let's moving along to the next slide. Okay, this is a sentence or a phrase taken from the booklet. Everyone can access the booklet online at BPK's website if you want to know more about the process and the procedures when you do PBD in the classroom. Okay, as you can see, it's berterusan, ongoing, dalam sesi pengajaran dan pembelajaran, which means it happens in the classroom. Now, in the classroom, we need to think outside the box. If you want to take your children or your pupils out of your classroom because it's part of your lesson, that's also considered as di dalam bilik darjah. Alright, teachers? Because we want to see if this PBD is able to help us to track their progress throughout the year. So this is one thing I want to make clear to all the teachers out there. PBD is not a summative assessment, it's formative.
Right.
As learning, for learning, of learning, as you can see on the slide there. So it is something, whenever we go into class, teachers should be thinking of, is my pupil understanding this? Are my pupils going to be able to achieve the objectives at the end of the day? And even if they do achieve the objectives that you have set for that particular lesson, how far have they progressed? Are they still at band 2 or 3, or are they progressing? So that's why we have this whole concept of PBD being or carried out throughout the teaching year.
And Miss Ima, what are some methods of assessment for PBD in Bahasa Inggeris? Okay,
in Bahasa Inggeris, obviously, we look at all the 4 skills. We look at all the 4 skills for listening, reading, speaking, and writing. So teachers, my reminder here is to just follow the lesson cycles according to the SOW all right? And you should be fine.
All right.
Of course, you need to have evidence whenever you are assessing your pupils, and they can come in many forms, as what I will share with you later. So if we look at the slide again, all right, as you can see, formatif mentaksir perkembangan sebagai pembelajaran berterusan, mentaksir perkembangan untuk pembelajaran for learning, and summative of learning. I mean, at the end of the year, obviously, even though PBD is still ongoing, but as teachers already know, the learning standards are repeated throughout the year. So teachers, please don't feel as though your students are failing or you are not able to award them a higher TP because the learning standards repeat themselves. All right, teachers? Okay? All right, and moving along to the last slide for this particular segment, these are the methods of assessment, as you have asked just now.
Yep.
We can assess the pupils orally by asking them questions, listening to their responses, and through their written work, from their essays or from their comprehension work, and obviously from observation.
Right.
Now, observation is where teachers use their professional judgment. Sometimes the body language also plays a part. All right? Because if you want to award that higher TP, 5 or 6, you need to know whether the pupils really know what it is that they are presenting.
Right.
All right, teachers?
And could you share with us more on the process of PBD as well, Miss Ima?
Okay, the process of PBD is, for me personally, is a very personal thing because it's how you look at that particular child, that particular pupil in your classroom as a whole. Is he able to understand what you've been teaching? And are they able to...
so plan...
Yes, you need to plan as a teacher, obviously. You need to plan, and you need all the items, as you can see on the slide there. And then after you have delivered your lesson, you need to assess via observation, oral or written work, record it, all right? And you need to prepare a report. Now, you have 2 reports that we have to submit to the BPK at the end of the year. And at the same time, when you record, teachers, this is where you will analyze and review whether you need to re-strategize your teaching so that you can push your pupils to get a higher TP, because essentially that's what we want to do, to get them to get to the best.
Get to the best, that's right. So plan, assess, record and report. Well, Miss Ima, is it okay if we take a short break before proceeding any further?
Definitely.
Okay, so everyone watching, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back only on Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah for Bahasa Inggeris. Hi everyone, welcome to Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah, only on Didik TV KPM with me Chris MJ as well as Miss Ima for today's discussion topic on PBD for Bahasa Inggeris Menengah Atas. Alright Miss Ima, what will we be discussing about next?
Okay, in this particular segment, we are going to look in detail at how teachers should award the PBD marks accordingly.
Okay.
Alright, so let's get right into it. Okay, in the first slide, there's a question here. Since we have the SOW, which is the scheme of work, where teachers need to refer to whenever they plan their lessons, what is the purpose of the DSKP? And as you can see in the slide, it's very basic. In our SOW, we are only shown the learning standards and ideas on how to plan the lesson and execute the lesson. But in order to award the TP or the performance standards that the pupils deserve, we need the DSKP for that. Okay? Only then we can complete our SBA or PBD.
I see, I see. All right.
Now, how do we assess performance level based on the learning standards? Look at the DSKP. So, teachers, colleagues throughout Malaysia, we really need to go to the DSKP to really know how am I going to award a 2, 3, 4 or a 5. All right, teachers? So let's one more reminder before I forget. The performance standards, okay, or the TP descriptors, they do not mirror the learning standards that we can find in the SOW.
Okay.
All right? So teachers are so used to using the SOW. So look at the DSKP to really understand what are the descriptors before we award the TP for our individual pupils. All right?
Okay.
Okay. Now, here is what I want to show everybody to make it really clear. This is learning standards. I'm taking a writing sample, all right, from Form 5, 4.1, and there are 5 learning standards that need to be taught throughout the year. All right, and as you can see, the learning standards, they are numbered, and it is clearly shown there what the teachers are going to teach.
Yep.
However, the next slide shows the performance level for writing skill. And let me just quickly go back, all right?
Sure.
It's not the same. For learning standards, you can only see what it is that teacher needs to work on in that particular lesson to achieve the 4.1.1 until 4.1.5.
Okay.
But in order to award, let's say your pupil writes an essay. How do I award this particular essay a TP 1, 2 or 3 or 4, 5 or 6? That's the question. And a lot of teachers, they're not really sure. I wouldn't say they don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they're just not really sure. Okay, so let's have a look at, let's have a look at the TPs in detail. And they have already been highlighted to show the difference. Okay, so if I want to award a TP1, right, the pupil can display minimal ability, information, ideas, feelings and opinions, as well as organized information with a lot of support. So if your pupil is writing an essay and you keep going back to her, and in fact you have to most probably say a few sentences to help the pupil to write the essay to achieve that particular descriptor, then that pupil must be somewhere around TP1.
Right.
And if you look at the second TP, with a lot of support, organize, display some ability. The difference between 1 and 2 is display minimal ability with display some ability. Can you see how it progresses?
Yeah.
If you look at TP3, it progresses more. Communicate information, ideas, feelings. So there's no more some or minimal ability.
Right.
So if the pupil is able to come up with his or her own ideas, then, and they are able to do it almost on their own, appropriately, independently, if you look at the second bullet there, then you can safely say, okay, maybe need some TP3, need some guidance, but I don't really need to spend a lot of time helping out this pupil.
Okay.
And as you go further up, 4, 5, and 6, let's take the TP6 example.
Yeah.
Communicate information, ideas, feelings, and opinions. So in order to award a child 6, they have to fulfill all of this. Information, ideas, feelings, opinions, as well as organize all of this coherently. That's the key word there.
Okay.
Using a variety of relevant details. That means the pupil not only will be able to process the information that they have to write, but they also need to include a variety of relevant details.
Right.
Relevant details. And then again, if you go down at the other bullets there, they can produce a plan and a draft appropriately, independently. So that would be another keyword there. And using registers appropriately, spelling must be accurate with reasonable accuracy. And the last one, display exemplary model of language use and guide others in a given task. Okay, so teachers, this is a reminder for you. If you want to award your child a TP6, he or she should be able to help their friends. Look at the last descriptor there.
Okay.
Guide others in a given task.
Wow. All right. So
it's sort of like a teacher helper. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Miss Ima, for sharing with us the 6 different performance levels. But for our fellow viewers, we will be taking a short break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with Miss Ima on PBD, Didik TV, KPM. Hi everyone, welcome back to Pentaksiran Bilik Darjah Didik TV KPM. My name is Chris MJ and today I'm here with Miss Ima as we are discussing on PBD dalam Bahasa Inggeris for tingkatan 4 dan 5. Alright Miss Ima, over to you. What are we talking about next?
Alright, okay, just now we had a look at how we are going to look at the descriptors.
Right.
Alright, and the details in the descriptors itself in general, and I used the writing skill as an example.
Okay.
Now, in this particular segment, I'm going to focus specifically on a reading, learning standard and help to show the teachers out there how you can plan your lesson, and based on your learning objectives and your success criteria in that particular lesson, how are you going to award your pupils the TP that they deserve or they should get.
Okay.
And at the same time, if they get a TP3, for example, what can you do to re-strategize your teaching? Because you'll be teaching the same learning standards over and over again in other lessons. All right? So let's move on to the first slide. Okay, a flow chart in implementing your PBD or SBA in English. All right, you plan a lesson and an assessment method. You implement it, which is carrying out the lesson itself.
Okay.
And you record your pupils' performance level. All right, and then you see, check and see, is there a need to improve their performance level? If yes, then you have to redo it again, as you can see on the chart.
Right.
If your pupil has achieved your target, all right, then it's all right, it's okay. Report it and you move on.
Okay.
Okay, now, the particular learning standard that we are going to focus on is 3.1.5, which is recognized with little or no support the attitude or opinion of the writer in extended text on a wide range of familiar topics. Okay? And these learning standards, I've taken this out from the SOW, but, sorry, this is from the DSKP.
Okay.
But if you go to the SOW, you will see this particular learning standard being the main learning standard that you have to teach. And I'm focusing on just the main learning standard. Because when we are assessing PBD and we mirror it to our lesson, we assess them based on the main learning standards. All right?
Okay.
Okay. So moving along. What materials can I use in my lesson? Obviously, the SOW is very much tied to the textbooks, which are Close Up for Form 3, Full Blast Plus 4 for Form 4, and Download for Form 5. Now, teachers, again, you are free to utilize other materials that you find suitable to the learning standard itself. So if you think the text in the book it's not really interesting, or you feel that, hey, there's something else that I think my pupil, I want to expose them to, make sure that, number one, the material you use will reflect the learning standard, and more importantly, number two, check and see if the material used is relevant to the level of the pupil who you are going to teach. So for Form 4, it has to be at B1 level, low to mid, depending on your pupil's abilities.
Okay.
All right? Okay. Next, this is the scheme of work, all right, that every teachers around Malaysia should have, all right? Okay, and this is lesson 62. And the learning standard, as you can see that, reading 3.1.5, and there's a complementary skill which is speaking. So again, teachers, if you feel that, oh, I will want to assess a few of my pupils, especially if you think there are more able pupils, to see if they are able to produce and improve their TP for their speaking, by all means, please do so. But for today, I'm only going to focus on the reading skills.
Okay.
All right? Okay? And as you can see in the scheme of work, just to add on a little bit of information, the learning outline is there. So to be honest, Chris, this is for me, after being a teacher for more than 20 years, it's like a godsend, because before this, we had to really think of, okay, what is it? What can I do with this?
Right.
But with this SOW, it's all spelled out there.
Wow.
Especially if you look at the pre-lesson, lesson delivery, post-lesson, and even on the last column, because I feel like I need to touch on this a little bit, the differentiation strategies. Okay, differentiation strategies is also part of PBD, because as you are teaching, my fellow friends out there, as you are teaching and you can see that, hey, my pupil is able to do more, then you can quickly think of the 8 differentiation strategies that you want to apply in your lesson, in your lesson delivery especially, and the examples or sample differentiation strategies are given there in the SOW.
Wow, so teachers already have a guide for their
Yes,
lesson.
exactly.
Okay,
so for me, there's no reason for teachers saying, oh, it's difficult, how can I do this? Because everything's there to help us, and the textbooks are good textbooks.
Okay.
I love using them. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, all right, now I have it in red because I want everyone to think. Look at this example and decide how you would determine the performance level. LO, learning objectives, is the product. SC, success criteria, is the process. Right, and the sample that I've given there, okay, by the end of the lesson, pupils will be able to recognize with little or no support the attitude or opinion of the writer in the reading text titled My Trip to Morocco, because this is based on the textbook material in Full Blast Plus 4.
All right.
Okay, so my SC, these are just my samples. Teachers, feel free to come up with your own success criteria. But as far as I'm concerned, you needn't have a long list of success criteria, because the success criteria will help you to determine whether your pupils have achieved that particular learning objective for you to award the best TP for them for this particular lesson. All right?
Okay.
So there are only 3 success criteria there, which is to get the pupils to read the text on page 74. It's very short explanation there. But if you find that your pupils keep on putting up their hands to ask for help to understand the text, means, okay, I need to give a lot of support. So going back to what we talked about, they need to try and do this independently.
I
see. Okay?
Okay.
Again, they need to identify the correct headings, which is activity B, and the third SC, they need to complete activity C, which, if you look at the textbook itself, all right, that's a sample of the textbook, there are in total 12 questions the pupils have to try and attempt on their own. Okay? All right. Now, looking at the descriptors for reading skills, if they display minimal understanding of the main ideas, this is from your observation, from you questioning them as you are teaching throughout the lesson delivery. If your pupils keep on asking questions for clarifications, then most probably they are not at TP3.
Right.
Because if they are at TP3, they can understand the main ideas adequately. All right? And they can independently use their dictionary skills to guess the meaning of some unfamiliar words. Okay? So, again, 2 things to bear in mind as what you can see on the slide. CEFR is an action-oriented approach. And when you give your final judgment for that particular lesson, use your professional judgment. Teachers, you know your pupils. Personally, you know your pupils well. Like me, I know my pupils well, even though I have hundreds of them. But I know them, I know their abilities. And moving on to a way to make a record. This is a sample I can share. This is with my 4 pasture. There are many ways to record. A lot of teachers moan and groan about, oh, it's so taxing to record. How do I record? So this is just a sample. And I like to some teachers, I have seen samples whereby they list out all the numbers, the 3.1 da 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 da, and then they add on the listening to the next column. I find that to be a little bit messy, so I find it easier to look at the TPs according to the skills. So this is how I record. Teachers, feel free to record the way that you want to.
All right.
Okay.
So, well, looks like we have come to the end of today's episode, Miss Ima. Thanks so much for sharing all this. But maybe before we wrap up, could you share some key takeaways or points that you'd like to share for everyone watching?
Yes, definitely. So, points to take away, what you can see on the slide, is a process to assist pupils to learn. It's not a one-off. PBD is not a one-off. So the 3.1.5 learning outcome, learning standard just now, it's not that one-off that you're going to assess your pupil for a TP. So it's a whole year progress throughout the year. And for point 5, I strongly recommend to triangulate. Triangulate means you look from all aspects, not just that particular my trip to Morocco. You need to look at everything as a whole.
Right. There you have it. Thank you very much, Miss Ima. And I'm very sure that everyone watching this has definitely given you more value, especially for PBD Bahasa Inggeris. And with that, we have come to the end of today's episode. Once again, I'm going to say thank you very much, Miss Ima.
My pleasure.
As well as Miss Amira as our sign language interpreter for today's episode. And we will see you again only on Didik TV KPM. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.